Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Zia, clinical psychologist specializing in transgender care. Welcome to my channel. Today's motivational tip ideally is going to help you not only gain a different perspective on your transition, but also going to help you understand what you're doing when you're engaging in this behavior, and ideally going to give you a little bit of a tip, a little bit of a guidance on how to proceed. We're going to be talking today about how you tend to yo-yo as in yo-yoing your gender transition. Now, I know this for a fact because I work with a lot of adults, and adults, more than anybody else, tend to yo-yo their transition. What do I mean by yo-yoing your transition? Well, analogy comes, as often in my analogies, comes from weight loss because it's such a common example. You know, when we want to lose weight, we want to lose those extra 10, 15, 20, however many pounds we want to lose, we tend to go on a diet. Diets is something that we tend to be drawn to. It tends to a lot of times carry a possibility of a promise, possibility of the outcome we desire, possibility of looking better, feeling better. So we go on a diet. How many of us actually do stick and commit to diet? Probably not that many. What do we tend to do? We tend to yo-yo, meaning we get on a diet, we stick to it a little bit, we see potential gain, then we stop dieting, we get back into our old habits, our old behaviors. Then we get back on the diet plan, and then we yo-yo again. And then yo-yoing continues to go on and on and on and on, and we never commit to ourselves. The same thing you guys are doing in your gender transition, because I see this first and foremost. What you tend to do, especially adults who age 30 and up, tend to get into gender transition because you realize that transition carries a possibility of decreasing your gender dysphoria, a possibility of helping you get closer to who you are, a possibility of achieving that authentic expression of your gender. So you get into gender transition. And in the beginning, little steps can be a little bit more exciting, especially steps you can do without coming out, without telling anybody, such as, for example, taking hormones. So you start taking hormones and you start feeling better. A lot of times, a lot of your distress tend to go down. Then maybe you take another next small step and you tend to come out to your loved ones and to your family, and you still maybe feel by far better. And then what happens? You yo-yo back, you scale back, either because you freaked out or either because you're starting to catastrophize and you're starting to think about all of the other things now you got to do along the path. So as a result of the fear, you tend to stop, either completely stopping hormone regimen or continuing to take the steps you need to take. So in other words, you just continue to yo-yo back and you stop and start, you stop and start. A lot of people I see do this, start and stop, start and stop. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of times for a lot of you, starting, especially hormones, and then stopping can actually be incredibly beneficial. Why? Because when you start hormones, you see the difference how good you feel. And then when you stop hormones, what usually happens 90% of the time is your dysphoria tends to come back. And that coming back of dysphoria enables you to understand and see how important transition really is. So that's actually sometimes a good thing. What's not so good is when you stop and stop continuously throughout duration of your gender transition. Now, this yo-yoing never works. And the reason why it never works is because you're not committed. Now, committing to yourself and committing to your authentic self can be very, very difficult, because this is not a matter of doing something as engaging in weight loss, which is culturally accepted, which is culturally supported. If I, for example, engage in weight loss, oh my goodness, everybody supports me. My family supports me. My husband supports me. There's pretty much gyms set up to support it. There's a wide range of support. There's articles written about it, supporting it. Gender transition is different. When you do decide to gender transition, there's actually quite a bit of opposition in a real world, not to mention how incredibly costly gender transition is. So as a result, I understand why you will have a really hard time committing to gender transition, not to mention all of the fears you potentially think you're going to run into as a result of gender transition. So commitment is going to be challenging, but commitment is going to be so essential. This is what I cannot stress enough in this motivational tip, is that you need to commit and you need to stick to it. You absolutely do. You need to commit and you need to stick to it. Here's why. When we tend to yo-yo in our gender transition in terms of our behavior, in the sense of starting, stopping, what you're also doing is you're psychologically learning how to not stick to something that is so important to you as your authentic self. Not only do you get into the habituated pattern of stopping and stopping, you're getting into the habituating pattern of not following through with the most essential and the most important thing for yourself. The longer you've been yo-yoing, the harder it is going to be to commit. That's why I really want you to abstain from yo-yoing. What I really want you to do is commit and stick to it. Like I said, commitment is difficult. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to make commitment much more manageable, how to make commitment work for you versus you working for commitment. One thing that I really encourage for you to do is in the beginning of your gender transition is to make visionary board. Yes, visionary board. I recommend visionary boards to all of my clients that I work with. What is visionary board? Visionary board is essentially for you to go through images, either through magazine or online, and immediately pick out images of expression of gender identity, of representation that you feel represents or resonates with how you see yourself. It doesn't have to be something where you're at right now. It doesn't have to be something whether it's very overly realistic or not. That's not the point. I don't want you to think about, I will never be able to achieve this. I just want you to start collecting a collage, a conceptual visionary board of who you are on the inside. It's very, very important because what you're doing is you're unconsciously projecting your authentic gender. In this case, will be unconsciously helping you to project the image, the overall energetic image of who you are. Create that visionary board. Put it somewhere where you can see and remind yourself that this is who you're committing to. That's the person, that's the energy, whether it's feminine, masculine, non-binary energy, that's the energy you're committing to. That's the energy you're going to go to. So visionary board is going to be very, very important. Another thing that you can do that will help you stick to your commitment is this. Every time in your gender transition, you feel like yo-yoing back. Let's say you have a habit of yo-yoing throughout your gender transition. And let's say you are transitioning and suddenly you want to stop. Maybe you got freaked out and you just want to stop taking hormones. Or maybe you got freaked out and you don't even want to pursue your surgery and you want to call and cancel your surgery. So first, I want you to always be mindful of your fears. If your fear is really drastic and big one and you want to cancel some transition plans, it is okay to cancel them. What I don't want you to do and what I want you to think about is think about sticking to at least some elements of your gender transition. In other words, don't completely throw your gender transition out of a window. Don't completely stop everything. Don't go cold turkey. Do at least a little bit of something. Think about weight loss again, right? So let's say I'm exercising, let's say I have a diet plan, let's say I'm doing well, and suddenly I want to yo-yo back. Suddenly things became really challenging. And suddenly I just want to stop exercising. Instead of 5 days a week, I just want to do 3 times a week. That's going to be way better than for me stopping to exercise altogether. Same thing with food. It'll be better for me to have that piece of chocolate every now and then than completely stopping my healthy lifestyle and just continuously eating chocolate. So remind yourself what you really want to do instead of completely throwing away your progress in your gender transition and stopping it altogether. See what are the little things you can continue doing. What are the little things you can continue to incorporate? If you feel that you are transitioning and you should be right now making appointments for doctors, maybe making appointments for any kind of surgical interventions you're interested in and you feel like you're not ready, that's okay. At least please still stick to your hormone regimen. Please stick to some other elements of your gender transition. Very, very important. I see a lot of people, when they go through the phase of yo-yoing, they for some reason completely stop altogether, cold turkey. Everything has got to stop. Not only hormones, but also everything else they're doing. And when you do that, that is just not helpful. Remember, you also want to work on your mindset. You want to help your mind to habituate to sticking to plans, to habituate to maintaining commitment. People who tend to do really well in gender transition tend to be people who are very good at committing. Commitment is an important component in everything that we do. Anything in life we want to do is a commitment. Here's another thing about thinking about stopping things completely abruptly. A lot of you have been to college. because a lot of you are adults. I'm working with adults, so a lot of you have been to college. If you've been to college, do you remember summer break? How many of you took summer breaks? I never took summer breaks when I went to college. You know why? Because I wanted to at least take one or maybe even two classes, not a full lot, but because I wanted to keep the momentum going. For those of you who went to college and took summer break, how challenging was it for you to return to college, to return to that next semester? I bet it was challenging because the momentum got lost. This is the thing about gender transition. You want to maintain that momentum. And the way to maintain that momentum is to stay in the game, is to stay in the process, is to stay on the path. It doesn't matter if you slow down. It doesn't matter if sometimes you speed up. It doesn't matter if sometimes it feels like things are not changing. But stay in the game, stay in the process, maintain that momentum. I promise you that momentum is going to accumulate to something. I promise you that momentum is going to give you results, but you got to stick to momentum. So that's my tip for you. If you feel like you're yoing, and I know that a lot of you do, please try to stay in the momentum. Try to stay in the process, even if you're doing little steps. Comment below now, let me know, how often have you yo-yoed? Are you one of the yo-yoers? Now, there's some people who are just prone to yo-yoing, and that's okay. And there's some people who are great at committing. So those of you who are great at committing, share tips that have been helping for you to maintain that commitment to yourself. It can be very challenging to maintain commitment to ourselves in relationship to gender transition, again, because the world is by far tends to be so unsupportive of gender transition. So comment below, let me know, share your insights, share your experiences, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.